You spend months, maybe even years, sitting in a classroom.
Oh yeah, grinding through it.
Right. You memorize vocabulary lists, you ace the grammar tests, and you practice your verb conjugations until you can literally recite them in your sleep.
Absolutely.
And on paper, you're completely, undeniably fluent, but then you step off a plane in New York or London, or you just turn on a movie without the subtitles, and suddenly you hit this solid brick wall of noise.
Is the ultimate shock to the system. I mean, you
Uh,
catch maybe one recognizable word out of every 10, and all that hard-earned confidence just completely evaporates.
it totally does. And that is exactly why we are here today. So, welcome to the Daily English Practice Channel.
Glad to be here.
We are tackling that frustrating, genuinely demoralizing gap between the pristine textbook English you were taught and the messy, lightning-fast language you actually hear in the wild. Our mission for this comprehensive exploration today is to crack the hidden code of native speech.
And it really is a code.
Yeah. We've got a fascinating stack of linguistic texts, pronunciation manuals, and transcripts from expert teachers to get through. We're going to look at the actual mechanical and psychological reasons why English sounds so impossibly fast.
Because the immediate reaction for anyone hitting that wall of noise is just to blame their own listening skills, or to assume native speakers are purposely talking at warp speed just to confuse them.
Right, like it's a conspiracy.
Exactly. But to really solve this, we have to move away from just telling you to, listen harder. We need to actually look into the hood of how the language physically operates.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right there with that universal complaint about speed. Because when you actually measure it based on the sources we have, English isn't inherently faster than other languages, is it?
Not at all. In fact, compared to many languages, English is spoken at a relatively moderate physical pace.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I mean, the issue that trips up your brain isn't speed. It's rhythm. It's the fundamental underlying music of the language.
The music.
Right. To understand why this creates a wall of noise, you have to look at how different languages handle timing. Linguists generally divide languages into two main camps.
Okay.
First, you have syllable-timed languages. Think of Spanish, French, or Japanese.
Uh-huh.
In those languages, almost every single syllable gets a relatively equal amount of time and emphasis.
So it's like walking on evenly spaced stepping stones. Every step, every syllable pulls its own weight.
Exactly. It's a very steady, predictable rhythm, like a metronome. But English operates on a completely different musical structure.
Right.
It is a stress-timed language. So the rhythm isn't determined by the number of syllables, but entirely by the stress beats of the VIP words.
The VIP words, meaning like the nouns, the main verbs, the adjectives.
The negative words, too.
Yeah.
These are the words that carry the actual critical meaning of the sentence, so they demand the spotlight. The speaker naturally makes them louder, longer, and higher in pitch.
Which means the other words, the non-VIP words, have to pay the price.
They absolutely do.
It reminds me of listening to a really fast Morse code transmission. If you try to treat the dots and the dashes as equal, if you try to give them the same mental weight, it just sounds like an aggressive wall of static.
That's a great way to put it.
You have to tune your ear to ride the long signals to make sense of the pattern.
Take the word computer from the manuals as a perfect microcosm of this.
Oh yeah. On paper, it looks perfectly symmetrical. 3 equal beats. Computer?
Right, and if you speak a syllable-timed language natively, your instinct is to pronounce it exactly that way, giving a steady, equal weight to all three parts.
But watch what happens to the vocal tract when a native English speaker says it naturally.
Yeah, the middle syllable, P-Y-O-O, steals absolutely all of the breath and acoustic energy.
It becomes the mountain peak of the word.
Exactly. And because the lungs and the vocal cords are pouring all their resources into that one stressed syllable, the syllables surrounding it get physically crushed.
So the vowel in common doesn't sound like a full ah or oh, and the ter at the end doesn't sound like a sharp er.
No, they completely die out. They turn into what we call the schwa sound.
The schwa?
Yeah, it's that lazy, relaxed sound. It is quite literally the sound your vocal tract makes when it is doing zero muscular work.
So the sharp, distinct computer morphs into computer. The outside vowels practically vanish into a sigh.
And this explains that deer in the headlights feeling for the listener.
Right, because if you're standing in a coffee shop and your brain is desperately scanning the audio environment for that perfect dictionary pronunciation of the first syllable com, And the barista only gives you a tiny fraction of a millisecond of a lazy coo sound.
Your brain throws a massive error message.
Yes, you just freeze up.
Your cognitive buffer fills up. Your brain realizes it didn't hear the acoustic data it was trained to expect, so it instinctively freezes the process to analyze the missing sound.
You start searching your mental dictionary.
Exactly. And while your brain is having a mini panic attack over one missing vowel, the barista has already finished the sentence and moved on. You didn't miss the sentence because it was objectively too fast. You missed it because your brain paused to wait for a perfect beat that was never going to drop.
So, if the VIP words are stealing all the oxygen in the room, what happens to the actual connective tissue of the sentence? All those little grammar words that glue the ideas together.
Well, they survive by undergoing a complete disappearing act. We call these weak forms.
Weak forms.
Yeah. Small grammatical words like prepositions, articles, conjunctions, words like and, to, for, of, a, the. They change their pronunciation entirely when dropped into the middle of a flowing sentence.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Take the word and. In isolation, it's strong. And. But in the middle of a sentence, the A and the D are usually abandoned entirely. Nobody orders fish and D chips.
Oh, true. It becomes a single blended unit, fish and chips.
Exactly. The surrounding sounds dictate the shape of the weak word.
Like the word to, right. If it comes before a consonant, it turns into that lazy schwa sound. Ch.
Spot on. So instead of perfectly enunciating, I want to go, the rhythm forces it down to, I want to go.
And the sources detail the rules for contractions, too, which operate on the same dynamic shifting principle.
Yes. The pronunciation literally morphs based on the mechanics of the letters next to it.
Like the contraction for have.
Right. If it comes immediately after a vowel, like the word I, your vocal cords are already vibrating from the vowel sound. So slipping a simple V sound at the end is effortless. Ives.
But if it comes after a consonant?
If it comes after a consonant like the word might, your mouth needs a tiny burst of air to reset between the hard T and the V.
Ah.
So you have to add that lazy schwa sound back in. Might have becomes might have.
You even see this mechanical shift happen with proper names. Sophie would help you gets crushed down to Sophie'd help you.
Yes. The language is highly, highly dynamic.
I do have to push back here, though, just for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Put yourself in the shoes of someone who has spent 2 years memorizing strict grammar rules. If native speakers are crushing, squishing, and just outright dropping half the letters in a sentence, aren't they just being lazy?
What?
I mean, it feels like the language is actively destroying its own rules out of sloppiness.
It is the most natural assumption in the world to call it laziness. But what's fascinating here is that it actually stems from a profound physiological efficiency.
Efficiency, okay.
Think about the biomechanics of walking, which was a great analogy from the source material. When you walk fluidly down a street, you don't take one robotic step, stop, plant your foot firmly flat, lock your knee, and then lift the other leg.
No, if we walked like robots, we'd be exhausted after a single block.
Exactly. Walking is an overlapping, continuous sequence of complex muscle movements. As your heel strikes the ground, your other foot is already peeling off the pavement.
That makes a lot of sense.
Fluent speech operates on the exact same biomechanical principle. The human mouth, the tongue, the lips, the jaw, they're performing incredibly complex, highly coordinated muscle movements at a rapid pace.
Right.
If we articulated every single letter of every single word perfectly, bringing the tongue back to a neutral position after every sound speech would be incredibly jerky, slow, and physically exhausting.
So to maintain smooth forward momentum, the sounds have to overlap.
Precisely. And this anticipatory overlap creates two massive phonetic phenomenons.
Yeah.
Assimilation and elision.
Okay, let's actually test that out. Assimilation is when sounds blend together to form a completely new sound, right?
Yes. The mouth anticipates the next physical movement and prepares early. Let's try it. Say the phrase 10 people out loud, but try to say it at a completely natural conversational speed. Notice what your lips are doing.
Okay, let me try. 10 people, 10 people, 10 people. Oh, wow.
See?
Yeah, if I speed it up, my lips are closing to make the P in people before I've even finished saying the N in 10.
Because the brain knows those lips need to close for the P. It's a bilabial sound, meaning it uses two lips.
Right.
The brain realizes that moving the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth for the N is a total waste of time and energy when the lips need to close anyway.
So it just skips the tongue movement entirely.
Exactly. It closes the lips early, and acoustically, that N turns into an M. 10 people becomes 10 people.
I am literally saying 10 people, and I never noticed it until I slowed it down. That is wild.
It happens all the time. Then you have coalescence, where two sounds smash into each other and fuse into a totally different sound.
Like the T and Y sounds.
Yep. A hard T followed by a Y sound naturally forces the tongue into a position that creates a CH sound, which is why the phrase got you effortlessly becomes gotcha.
Okay, so if assimilation is sounds blending together, elision is sounds just vanishing completely into the void.
Again, for muscular efficiency. If a weak, unstressed sound is trapped between harder consonants, the vocal tract just deletes it to save time. The dictionary word is potato, but natural speech drops the first vowel entirely, turning it into pato.
And tomato becomes tomoto.
Exactly.
It happens to heavy consonant clusters, too. Take next week. Trying to enunciate the T in the middle of that cluster requires you to physically stop the airflow in your mouth for a fraction of a second.
This totally breaks the rhythm.
Right, so it just gets dropped. It becomes next week. There was an example from the transcripts of bed and breakfast.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, if you say it naturally and quickly, the D gets dropped, the and turns into an N, the N assimilates into an M because of the B in breakfast. It erodes all the way down to Bembrex.
Bembrex. I mean, it sounds like an entirely different language.
It really does. It reminds me of a continuous stream of water flowing over a bed of jagged rocks. Over time, the constant rushing flow of the water erodes all the sharp, hard edges of the stones, making everything smooth and connected.
That's a beautiful way to visualize it.
So the sharp edges of the dictionary words like I am going to get eroded by the flow of connected speech into I'm gonna and eventually just I'm a.
And the linguistic term for that is connected speech, but your water analogy captures the physical reality of it perfectly.
But, this brings up a massive, glaring question.
What's that?
If the physical acoustic data is missing, if letters are changing shape, and entire words are vanishing into thin air, how on earth do native speakers actually understand each other?
It's a fair question.
If the data isn't hitting the eardrum, how does the message get to the brain?
To answer that, we have to shift our focus away from the muscles of the mouth and look at the cognitive processing of the brain. Because native speakers are not actually listening to every single word.
Wait, they aren't listening.
Not to every individual acoustic signal, no.
Yeah.
They are relying heavily on what cognitive psychologists call top-down processing, as opposed to bottom-up processing.
Okay, so bottom-up processing is what you do when you are learning a language, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You hear a sound, you match it to a letter, you build a word, you translate the word, and you string those words together like building blocks to figure out the sentence.
Which is exhausting.
It is incredibly slow and completely reliant on perfect audio data.
Which, as we've established, does not exist in natural speech.
Right. Top-down processing works in the exact opposite direction. Native speakers use the context of the situation, visual cues, and their deep internalized knowledge of grammar as a predictive map.
A predictive map?
Yeah, they are constantly predicting what the next word will be before the speaker even opens their mouth. They literally hallucinate the missing sounds based on what they logically expect to hear.
Hallucinating the language, that is such a wild concept. To take a common phrase like, what you doing?
Perfect example.
Grammatically, the helping verb are is supposed to be in there. What are you doing? But physically, acoustically, if you look at the sound wave of a native speaker saying that casually the word are is completely missing. It is not spoken at all.
But if you pause the conversation and ask a native listener what they just heard, they will swear on their life that they heard the word are.
Wow.
Their brain's predictive map knows that a helping verb belongs in that syntactic space. So the brain automatically, seamlessly fills in the blank. It perceives the word as a reality, even though the physical ears never actually absorb the sound.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, we rely heavily on how the speaker packages the information to guide those predictions, right?
We do. Native speakers organize their speech into thought groups.
Thought groups.
Yeah, we don't speak in a continuous, unbroken, monotonous stream of data.
Yeah.
We chunk our ideas together into distinct packages of meaning, usually separated by tiny, almost imperceptible pauses.
And each package has one main focus word.
Exactly. And where you draw the boundaries of those thought groups entirely changes the map your listener is following.
Oh, think about the massive difference in meaning based purely on where the pause happens. The source text used the sentence, "Woman without her man is nothing."
Right, which is highly outdated and obviously offensive.
Very. But take those exact same words in the exact same order and just shift the thought group boundaries. Woman, without her, man is nothing.
Completely opposite meaning.
Yeah. The acoustic words didn't change at all, but the packaging completely rewired the listener's predictive map.
Which brings us to a crucial point for anyone trying to learn this. If the brain is doing all this heavy cognitive lifting, if understanding English requires this delicate balance of relying on a predictive map to fill in the blanks, what happens when you introduce anxiety?
Right. If I'm terrified of speaking to a native speaker, if I'm sweating about missing a word, does our emotional state literally affect our ability to listen?
It absolutely shatters it. The biological mechanism behind this is fascinating.
What happens?
Well, when you're anxious, your body floods with cortisol. This triggers a mild fight-or-flight panic response that literally physically restricts the language processing centers of your brain.
Oh, wow.
Specifically, it severely reduces your working memory.
And your working memory is like the brain's temporary whiteboard where it holds pieces of the sentence while it tries to make sense of the whole thing.
Exactly. And cortisol essentially wipes that whiteboard clean.
Yeah.
If you are stressing over the one weak vowel you missed at the very beginning of the sentence, your predictive engine completely stalls out.
So you get stuck.
You get stuck in bottom-up processing, trying to decode the word the, while the speaker is already 10 words ahead. You literally, functionally cannot listen if you are panicking. Trying harder and stressing more actually makes you physically worse at hearing the language.
So you have to relax the conscious grip and let the subconscious map fill in the blanks.
Exactly.
Okay, knowing this theory is incredibly validating. It proves your ears aren't broken. But how do you actively train your brain and your mouth to master this new predictive map?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the key is forcing your brain out of its syllable-timed habits. And the sources gave us two highly practical tools to start rewiring this immediately.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is the metronome technique.
I love how incredibly tactile this is.
It really is. You download a simple free metronome app on your phone. You set it to a very slow, steady beat, around 60 beats per minute. Then you practice reading sentences or lists of words out loud, but you force yourself to only hit the stressed VIP syllables right on the metronome click.
Meaning everything else, all those unstressed syllables, all those weak forms, must be violently squeezed into the silence between the clicks.
Exactly. Let's use the word hotel. The stress is on the second syllable.
Yeah.
So the metronome click lands on T-tel.
Click tell, click tell.
Right. And you have to squeeze the ho in right before the beat. Hotel, hotel.
Or a word like banana. The stress is in the middle,
Ah.
banana. So the click hits N anyways,
yeah.
and you squeeze the rest around it. Banana. It forces your mouth muscles to physically abandon that equal timing rhythm. You start to feel the actual squish and stretch of English in your jaw.
It builds the muscle memory of the rhythm. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And the second tool is called shadowing. This is an active, aggressive listening technique.
How does that work? You take a video or a podcast of a native speaker. You listen to a sentence, and then you mimic them immediately. But you aren't just reciting the vocabulary words like a robot. You are acting.
Right.
You are copying their exact pace, the rise and fall of their pitch, and most importantly, you are intentionally copying their dropped syllables and mashed up sounds.
So you are intentionally practicing the bad, messy English to train your ear to recognize it.
Exactly. You record yourself doing it, compare your audio waveform to the original, and correct your mouth movements until they match.
It ties back to the idea that language is like a song.
That analogy is perfect, yeah.
The strict grammar rules and the vocabulary lists, that's just the sheet music. But the speakers, the people on the street, they are the singers.
And no two singers perform the song exactly the same way.
If you only ever listen to the slow, pristine, perfectly enunciated tape from your classroom, you are only exposing your brain to one very boring, sterile cover of the song.
Right, which doesn't prepare you for the real world.
To build a truly robust predictive map, you have to diversify your inputs. You have to hear the song sung by many different voices.
A fast-talking New Yorker, someone with a thick Scottish brogue, a teenager using heavy slang.
A tired barista.
Exactly. By exposing your brain to all these different variations of speed and elision, your brain stops looking for perfect dictionary words and starts recognizing the underlying flexible pattern of the rhythm.
You train the brain to rely on the structure rather than panicking over imperfect acoustic data.
That's the ultimate goal.
Let's pull all of this together. The biggest takeaway here is that English is not a language of speed.
No, it's not.
Native speakers are not trying to talk too fast just to confuse you. English is a language of rhythm and prediction. It's a landscape of mountains and valleys, of stressed peaks and squished, erased valleys. Words physically change shape, blend together, and disappear entirely, all in the name of muscular efficiency.
Well said.
So stop trying to hear every single letter. Stop scanning the audio for perfect dictionary words that simply don't exist in the wild, and learn to relax and trust your brain's predictive map.
And, exploring that predictive map leaves us with a rather profound final thought to chew on.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if human communication relies so heavily on top-down processing, if our brains are constantly actively predicting what people are going to say before they even finish their sentence,
Yeah.
literally hallucinating the missing sounds,
Yeah.
how often are we actually hearing the reality of the other person?
Yeah.
And how often are we just projecting what we expect them to say based entirely on our own internal mental models and biases?
Oh, wow. Are we actually hearing the world or just listening to an echo of our own expectations? That is a huge question to leave off on. We'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. Please interact, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Daily English Practice channel. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.